Hi, everybody. Some people were having trouble with this assignment, so I figured I'd walk you all through it and let me know if you have any other questions. But this should be pretty self-explanatory. Some of you might be new to using terminal or command prompt, so that might be the issue. But so the first step here is to clone your repository. So you might already have your repository on your computer. If you don't, you'll need to clone it from the internet, which repository is just a fancy word of saying the online copy of my work. And so an example would be, say I have this repository and it's called Django Starter. This is my online copy of it, and then I can download a copy of this online version that I can work on locally. And that process is called cloning. And you can clone a few different ways. If you have GitHub Desktop, then there might be a clone button in there. And I'm sure if I just look up GitHub Desktop clone repository, you can find instructions. It looks like similar things. So you just click code and then you click open with GitHub Desktop, and then GitHub Desktop will launch, and then you can go to a empty folder in your computer and then choose to clone over there, and it'll then download that repository locally onto your computer. But it's a little different than just downloading a file. This is creating a local GitHub repository, which can then communicate with the remote repository, and that way there's a flow of code from your computer to the server and from the server to your computer. So that's what we mean when we say clone. So the first step is to clone your repository. Um, Let me see if I have a repository that I can just clone real fast. So let's do this one. So this is a repository that I have. It's remote. You guys will be cloning your repository from lesson one. Um, I'm just showing you this as an example. So yeah, if you have GitHub Desktop, feel free to open with GitHub Desktop. I'm just going to use this. HTTPS just means that when you pull it down, when you try to clone the repository, it's going to ask for your GitHub username and password. I have something a little fancier called SSH keys, which essentially just means that my computer has a secure connection with GitHub and I don't have to enter my password every time. That's really the only difference there. So let's go ahead and do that. So um, we're going to start off by cloning. I'm going to open something called terminal or command prompt. Um, If you have Windows, you'll be using Command Prompt. If you have a Mac or Linux computer, you'll be using Terminal. This is my terminal right here. I just did Command space and type in Terminal and it shows up. Windows users, you'll press Start and then type in Command Prompt. If you already installed Git GitHub Desktop, then Git should already be installed on your computer. So I think I could just type in git-v, and this shows me the version of Git that's installed on my computer, and that's just a quick check to know, whether you have access to Git or not. If you don't have Git on your computer at this point, that's kind of a problem because we've been relying on Git for the previous few assignments. But I'm sure if you don't have it, you can find a way to download Git, download for Windows. And then you can go ahead and download it for Windows, Mac, or Linux, and then you can get to using it from your terminal. Um, so GitHub Desktop is a tool that abstracts away a lot of these commands that we do in the terminal here and turns them into buttons. So it's like a easier way of using Git. But now that we're getting further into the course, we want to familiarize you all with using the terminal. So let's start by cloning the repo. So since I don't have a local copy of that repository yet, I'm going to, let's go to documents and then development. This is kind of a folder where I keep all my projects, and I'm gonna create a directory called lesson. Not sure what lesson this is, lesson 6. And then I'm going to go into lesson 6. And now I can clone the repository into this empty folder. Git clone there. So yeah, like I said earlier, because I have SSH, I don't have to enter the password, but if you do use HTTP to clone, then you just have to enter the password. That's the only difference. So now I'm in the same state that you all are in, which is you have a local clone repository. So again, if you did lesson 1, you should already have a clone copy of your repository and you don't need to worry about this part. You just have to enter the folder that the repository is in. So now when I've entered my repository, you can see that it says Git. This just means that we are inside a Git repository. We know that it's a Git repository because it'll have a .git folder in there. Now it is hidden, so if your system is not set up to display hidden folders, then you won't see the .git. But um, that's just kind of a insider knowledge of what makes a Git folder. But let's move on with the work. So it says to create a new branch. And so what happens is when you have a repository, you have maybe different kinds of work going on, right? Maybe you're collaborating with different folks. Maybe everybody's working on a different feature. So you might have different branches to track that work. So say you're building Facebook and somebody's working on the news feed and somebody else is working on the friends functionality and they don't want to step over each other's work, so they'll create a new branch. And you can see over here, this is where it displays how many branches you have. But it's just a way of isolating your work from somebody else's work so you're not stepping over each other's toes. So I'm gonna go ahead and create a new branch called lesson 7. I guess it's lesson 7. All right, so we're gonna do git checkout dash b lesson 7. Again, you want to be inside the repository to do this. So, I cloned down my name dash Django starter, and then I went inside of that folder where all my files are. You might have a README in there, right? Because we worked on that earlier in the semester. And you'll run this command to create a new branch. When I hit enter, it looks like it created the new branch, lesson 7, and then it checked it out as well. So now before I was in the main branch, which is kind of the default branch for any repository, and now we've moved on to lesson 7. Okay, so the new branch is created. Now you need to create a new file, an empty file, and save it. Okay, so let's do that. So it says use Notepad. I like well, let's use Notepad. Let's do Sublime. So that Sublime is my preferred text editor right here. And I am going to create a new file, create an empty file, and save it. Okay, so this is an empty file, and I'm going to go File, Save, and I go to navigate to my Git repository. So I'll go Documents, Development, Lesson 6, Django Starter. Save the file in Django Starter and call it lesson7.html. Okay, save. In terminal, I can just confirm that happened because before there's no lesson 7 file in here. If I do ls now, I'll see lesson7.html. Hope that makes sense. Um, just trying to resize my window, but I'm having trouble with that. Okay, so lesson 7 now exists inside my repository. We'll move on. Stage and commit. So now at this point, the file is locally existing on my computer, but now I need to push it up to the remote repository, which is what this is. And so we're going to stage and commit. So stage means make the file ready to send up to the internet. So um, sorry, I need to make this a little smaller so you can see it. There we go. Git add lesson7.html. And now if I do git status, you can see that we've added a new file and it's staged and is ready to go, right? When we commit it, it's going to go up to our remote repository. And then we're going to run this command, which is git commit -m. -m means add a message. And the message is added lesson7 HTML file, which is pretty self-explanatory. So git commit -m add. There we go. So now the commit has been created. It's still not pushed up to the remote repository yet. We've just added a file and we've added a message or a name for that change. And that's all that's been happened so far. And now we're going to push the new branch up along with the change. So push means send this to the remote repository. Um, origin in this case refers to our specific remote repository. So if you usually just have one remote repository, then it's always going to be called origin by default. But if you had multiple remote repositories, then you have to call it by name. You don't need to worry about that too much right now. If we just push this, all this is saying push my changes to the remote repo. And there you go. So this was a little more verbose because it's actually uploading our new file to the internet. And that has been completed. And now our branch lesson 7 has a new change. And we've pushed it. So let's go check it out. So now if we go to Django starter, it says, oh, it got a new change from lesson 7. So that's in the lesson 7 branch. And so this is kind of what I was talking about earlier. When you have different streams of work going on at the same time, we use branches to kind of separate the work. But also another key feature of branches is, say, main branch is where all your production code is, right? So say the production code for Facebook. So this is a live copy of the code that runs on Facebook. You don't want to willy-nilly push up changes to the Facebook code base for deployment, because what if it has a breaking change, right? Now you've broken Facebook all over the world because you pushed up your change to main and it conflicted with somebody else's. And so this is kind of a robust process that avoids that kind of thing. So I'm a developer. I created lesson 7 branch. I pushed up a change and now I've sent it up to remote repo. And now it's time to merge the branch, which means let's make the lesson 7 work a part of the main branch. So it says, go to the repository and open the pull request to merge the change. If you pushed recently, so it says I pushed 24 seconds ago, GitHub automatically pops up a notification and says, you can create a pull request right here by clicking this. If you, for some reason, don't see that notification, you can go to pull requests and then new pull request. And then, so this is where is the code coming from and where is it going to? So in the coming from, you pick lesson 7, and then the going to will be your main branch. So you can see right here, merge lesson 7 to your main branch. So that's what's happening there. The flow is from lesson 7 to main branch. It shows there was one change, added lesson 7 HTML file, and this is the HTML file, which is empty. So now we can go ahead and merge that. So we'll click create pull request. Does it say anything about the pull request? Nope, just open it. and complete the merge. So usually, you add a title and a description for a pull request, and then you click create pull request. Now the request is out there. So when you're working on a team as a software engineer, you'd be creating pull requests, and then somebody else from the team will review your changes and approve them to go into main. And that kind of creates a code review acceptance process. Um, so we could see here, the pull request has been created, and now the code is queued up to be merged as soon as somebody clicks merge pull request. And that's our next step here. Complete the merge once the pull request is approved. It is approved because it says no conflicts with base branch and it's ready to go. So we're going to click merge and then confirm merge. Now our lesson 7 file is a part of the main repository. So if I go to the main branch, which we're already on, you should see lesson 7 right here added 4 minutes ago. So that is how you create a new branch, create a pull request, push code to a branch, merge the branch. Looks like we can do some cleanup now. So go back to your terminal, switch back to the main branch. How do you do that? Git checkout main. Gonna run git checkout main, and looks like we moved from lesson 7 to the main branch. Now we're gonna delete lesson 7 because the work has been merged into main. So now we no longer need the lesson 7 branch. We're gonna run git branch -d, which means delete lesson 7. Warning, deleting branch that has been merged to, but not yet merged to head. Deleted. Okay, that's fine. It's deleted. Now we're going to push the delete to a remote repository, which means now it'll be deleted from here as well. So currently in this moment, you see lesson 7. I believe if we refresh and everything went okay, you no longer see lesson 7 because it's gone now, been deleted. So that is how we contribute work to a separate branch and then merge it into main. I think that is all these steps for the assignment. Yep. So to submit, you're gonna send a link to your lesson 7 HTML file. So that's gonna be a link to like this. This would be your link. And when I come here, I can click history and I can see that, oh, you added the file to main, or if I go to your main and I click commits, I can see, oh, okay, you created lesson 7 and then you merged a pull request. And that way I can kind of backtrack and see that you did everything that was required for the assignment. But yeah, if you submit that link to the lesson 7 HTML file, it should be like github.com/ your GitHub name and then your repository name. You should be good to go. And these are all the things we're looking for. But yeah, if you just follow what I just did, there's no reason you shouldn't get 100% on this assignment. All right, bye.